We are just an hour away from the next step in NASA's return to deep space. The Orion capsule is set to blast off from Cape Canaveral at 6:05 this morning. WAFF 48 News anchor Liz Hurley has been on the Space Coast all week long. And Liz, here we are again. How do you think things look this morning?
Here we are again. That's right. Good morning. Here we are again, Tiani. I am here at a very windy Cape Canaveral, Florida, right along the Banana River. You can see over my shoulder the ULA built in Decatur Delta IV Heavy rocket over my shoulder with the Orion sitting on top. She is fueled now and she is ready to fly. Let's hope she does today. Yesterday, much better chance for acceptable weather, 70% chance yesterday. Today, we only have a 40% chance of acceptable weather to fly. But weather wasn't the only problem yesterday. They encountered several issues, one of which was the weather, the high winds. The second was some sticking valves, some valves that kept freezing as the countdown continued. They were opening and closing, and they literally froze with that super cooled rocket fuel. It's minus 400 degrees, so you can imagine during the countdown with all the opening and closing, they literally froze. ULA engineers worked very hard yesterday to keep those primed, so hopefully that won't be an issue today. We were looking at Doppler a little while ago. David, for your information, there's a storm system, a rain system to our south around Lake Okeechobee, and then to our east, right along the Sebastian Jupiter Inlet. NASA is keeping a very close eye on that. They're hoping that it won't influence today's launch window when Orion is scheduled to fly at 6:05 Central Time. Again, they are fueled, ready to go. If they have to scrub today, they'll have to skip tomorrow and go for a third attempt on Sunday. So all fingers crossed down here when that window opens at 6:05 that Orion will fly. Reporting live at Cape Canaveral, Liz Hurley, WAFF 48 News.
540.
Well, we are just 35 minutes away from history. Orion is on the launch pad atop the Delta IV rocket, waiting to blast off. The weather looks okay, and in about 25 minutes, we'll see the final go or no-go checklist run down from Mission Control. Of course, yesterday we saw several late aborts due to wind and fuel valve issues, but so far, so good today. Of course, anytime there's a major NASA launch like this, you know a lot of people here in the Tennessee Valley were involved in the design, testing, and execution. WAFF 48's Liz Hurley is live from Cape Canaveral. And Liz, how is it looking this morning?
Okay, Tiani, rain, wind, clouds. Right now, NASA hopes that trifecta stays away from the launch pad for at least 35 minutes until that 6:05 window opens and they can get Orion off the ground. All eyes are here looking at that. The helicopters are circling. That's the security. There is a vibe in the air that says this is going to be it. So I can tell after being here for so many years watching the shuttle launch, this is a good feeling. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. Yesterday, of course, much better forecast, 70% chance to fly. Right now, only a 40% chance of acceptable conditions, but you know what? Right now things look good, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Yesterday also there were some issues on the ULA Delta IV Heavy out there that's on the launch pad. The valves kept sticking because of that super cooled rocket fuel. It's minus 400 degrees, and as the countdown proceeded and the valves kept opening and closing, they finally froze. But right now ULA engineers have certainly gotten that under control, they say, and they are ready to go fly, and that hopefully will happen in just a few minutes. Stay right here. We'll cover it live. Liz Hurley, WAFF 48 News at Cape Canaveral.
Well, it's almost go time for Orion. We're taking a live look at the launch pad where the Delta IV rocket is set to lift off in less than a minute. It's traveling farther into space than any other craft since the Apollo era. And today's mission will cover 60,000 miles. And here's what we know so far. These are just some of the facts by the numbers. It'll go 3,600 miles into space. The ISS is orbiting 260 miles up, so you can see how big those numbers are. The test will validate parachutes, avionics, abort systems, separation systems, and altitude control. Those have all been tested on the ground, but nothing can replicate space conditions. The rocket is a Delta IV made by ULA in Decatur, and future Orion missions will use the SLS rocket. The rocket will reach the speed of sound at 1 minute 25 seconds after launch. Boosters will release 3 minutes 56 seconds after liftoff. Let's go ahead and listen in to Mission Control.
Row for ignition.
10.
The igniters have been lit.
9, 8, 7, 6.
5, 4, 3. 3, 2, 1. And liftoff at dawn. The dawn of Orion and a new era of American space exploration.
Good engine control in the first stage. Passing 25 seconds. Velocity 1,341 feet per second. Passing 31 seconds, still looking good. Good engine control. Good chamber pressure in all 3 boosters in the full power mode. 40 seconds in. Standing by to go to the partial thrust mode in the core. And we have partial thrust command in the core. Core chamber pressure beginning to drop as expected as we're coming up on the 1 minute mark. 1 minute into the flight. Still looking good. Good chamber pressure in the core booster in the partial thrust mode. Good chamber pressure in port and starboard in full power mode. One minute, 15 seconds into the flight. We have the hydrazine supply valve open in the second stage. 1 minute, 22 seconds in. Max Q, maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle. Passing 124, Mach 1. Orion and Delta IV now transcending the speed of sound. 1 minute, 31 seconds in. Good engine control in the first stage. Coming up 1 minute, 40 seconds. Velocity now 1,341 feet per second. 1 minute, 50 seconds in. Still looking good. Coming up on 2 minutes. 2 minutes into the flight. Good engine control in the first stage. Port and starboard boosters still at good chamber pressures in the full power mode and good core chamber pressure in the partial thrust mode at 2 minutes, 22 seconds in.
And there you have it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
2 minutes, 35 seconds in. Still looking good.
And there you have it. Those of us who got to see it on TV, we're going to go soon to our Liz Hurley and get her reaction from the ground watching that live from Cape Canaveral. Well, now we're going to go to Liz Hurley, who's on the ground, who got to watch all of this live. And Liz, I'm excited to hear your reaction.
Are you? Wow, how about that? It was amazing. NASA promised smoke and fire, and right here on the Banana River at very close to the launch site, we got smoke and fire. Look above me. Can you see the plume of all of that pyrotechnic display? It is right now over Launch Complex 37, still hanging in the air. All of that massive thrust, it just was so powerful. We are on Merritt Island on a wildlife refuge. You should have seen, not only did that bird fly, that Delta IV Heavy with Orion on top, but literally all of the birds, it looked like here at the wildlife refuge, literally just took off at the same time. It was an amazing experience. Now Orion is on this historic flight, 4.5 hours long. 2 loops around the Earth. Right now, be watching your watch. I'm trying to see what time it is. At 6:11, all important for the Marshall Space Flight Center, they will be keeping a very close eye on the launch abort system. That is what they've been in charge of. That is at the point in time in this flight that it will be jettisoned away. Very, very key. Remember, this is a critical test flight. Quote, test flight. NASA is trying to look at all of the systems, how they integrate with each other in the air, in deep space, as well as on the ground. They want to see how that launch abort system actually reacts, because that is what protects the astronauts in case of emergency, in case they need to come back to Earth after a launch. Again, this is an uncrewed, unmanned flight, but in the future, in 2021, astronauts will be on board the Orion, so they have to know that information. They'll also be looking at various other systems throughout the day on this 4.5 hour flight. Right now, again, at the first loop, we'll go at the height of the ISS, of the International Space Station. Second loop, we'll go at about 3,600 feet, and then splash down 4.5 hours from now in the Pacific. We'll be here to cover it for you. At the Kennedy Space Center, really in front of the Launch Pad 37 at Cape Canaveral, Liz Hurley, WAFF 48 News.